Welcome to Skillsoft presents ETStudios HRConnect in association with ET World. Now, this panel couldn't come at a more timely manner. In an age defined by AI, automation, and constant disruption, the shelf life of skills is shrinking faster than ever. Organizations now are being challenged to not just upskill and reskill at scale, but to make sure that they're doing this continuously with speed and strategic intent. This session brings together three leaders who are shaping the future of talent development. Please join me in welcoming our leaders today. Divyesh Sindhwaad, VP and Country Head India at Skillsoft. We have Dr. Badari Narayana, Executive Director, Talent at Deloitte, and Manoj Apte, Head of L&D at Persistent Systems. Thank you so much for joining us all today.
Pleasure.
Let me start off with the fact that now we're in the age of AI and automation, and continuous skilling has never been more important. So, in this age, how are you reimagining reskilling and upskilling? I'll start with you, Dr. Badri.
Thank you. So let's go back to how learning was before, right? Learning was a curriculum. There was a laid out curriculum. People would come to those training programs physically and attend those programs. Now it's gone. Why has it gone? Because people are exactly conscious about the skills that they need to acquire. There's enough information out there. Organizations and clients know what skills are required. Therefore, this traditional one-size-fits-all is no more going to work. People have to develop an adjacent skill. What skill they want to acquire is what they need to identify, and that's where the whole learning agenda is being focused on. Today, one of the biggest challenges that the business leaders have is, I think in their KPIs, is also that how much are they facilitating this upskilling? Now, the other thing we need to be conscious of is upskilling can get you a particular skill, but skills are getting very obsolete very fast. So people need to reskill also very fast because they need to quickly adapt to what is required in the market, and micro learning is what is going to be driving the future. Journal of Applied Psychology clearly stated that your retention increases 80% if you do micro learning. At their pace, at their time, upskilling and reskilling are extremely important, and it is not any more important than the times we are in.
We do want to delve into microlearning, but just before that, I rewind to what you said earlier about how reskilling is going to be the order of the day and upskilling is slowly going to be waned out. I'll take it across to you, Manoj. Is that something you believe in as well, with the shelf life of the skills that we have quickly, rapidly shrinking, and the fact that apparently by 2030, as soon as that, we will need a whole new set of skills to navigate the new workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Dr. Badri. I think one of the things that we are seeing, at least within Persistent and even in other IT organizations, is, it's not going to happen suddenly. I think there will always be a blend of what is really required for the near future and future. Plus, we will continue to have, to support some of the legacy systems that we have. So we will always be looking at a blend of, part of the organization will continue to support the legacy technologies. The rest of the organization will have to start transforming itself. And now, few things that we are doing in order to address this transformation is, first of all, creating a very inclusive initiative where we strongly believe in using design thinking methodologies to ideate and really find the right solutions for the organization. So we are actually going bottom up, where we make those programs very inclusive, bring in people from across the pyramid, do the ideation, find out the right solutions to the problem, which will typically address the following. One, that it will help us in identifying what are the skills that we need to really pick up and how soon we need to pick up. And secondly, many of the roles will transform into future roles. Like there will be an AI developer role and not just a software developer role, right? Maybe there is an AI architect and not just a enterprise architect, and so on. So I think we are actually, within Persistent, we are actually taking a fairly holistic approach to reimagine, and that's something that we are actually even branding ourselves as reimagining the future, to really shape up the organization and prepare everyone, gradually for the future. So I think these are some of the steps that we are actually taking within Persist.
So interesting. Some of the present skills will be required to support legacy systems. Other areas, rapid transformation taking place. Divyesh, you work with varied organizations across sectors. How are you seeing this transformation of skills taking place currently, and what is the approach that most people are taking right now?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I think it's not very different from what Badri and Manoj just mentioned. And if you look at it, there is a place for, those traditional approaches, curriculum-based learning as well. And at the same time, there is a definite place to basically support the learners with just-in-time learning, learning in the flow of work, with micro resources to basically help them be more productive, solve problems, okay, and make decisions which are important for the organizations and for them, okay. And if you look at it from a Skillsoft perspective, and where we are heading is basically aligning to this, this ask from our customers, where, like Manoj mentioned, they have a very clear business imperative to support those legacy technologies and legacy learning needs. At the same time, also prepare for the future. Because what skill sets we have today, like you also mentioned a while back, okay, are not going to be relevant in the future. So you, in a way, basically, it's about balancing. How do you deliver today and at the same time prepare for the future? And that's where the challenge is, okay, because you cannot compromise on either. Okay, and you need to find a way in terms of meeting the learners where they are.
Right.
Because in the present context, everybody is so busy delivering what they have to do today that nobody has the time to, just put their head up and look at, where I'm heading and then what is there in the future. So how do you do that balancing part, and how do you give them those resources and those, those experiences which make it easier for them to consume learning, okay, which is relevant to their role, relevant to the skill gaps that they have, and relevant to where they are heading, okay, in a way that it becomes outcome driven for the organization in terms of delivering the present and preparing for the future.
And that's very interesting perspective that you brought in, that the employees by themselves are usually so focused on the day-to-day goals. They're caught up in the wheel to give time to that big picture about the future. So this is the role of leaders such as yourselves. You come in, you tell them, these are the sort of skills that you can reskill and upskill with. What do you think is the role of the employee here, the boardroom here, and also perhaps the team members of the courses that you recommend?
So I think, within Persistent I have seen the philosophy that we believe in is the me enterprise, and which is a very interesting philosophy that, Dr. Anand and our CEO, Mr. Karla, is also kind of promoting. Is the employee is actually in charge of his or her own life as well as the career. Whereas the organization is there to bring in every possible resource that is required for people to actually grow and transform, but it is finally the responsibility of the employee. So I think when it really comes to the employee, it is something that they should be absolutely aware of what is necessary for them to be relevant in the today's world as well as for the future. And from the leadership point of view, I think it is our job, and we were actually talking about it offline, that, like every salesperson, it's very important for every other function within the organization, including learning and development, HR, and many others, to really have that product mindset, which makes sure that, if you want to, bring in some change in the organization, if you want people to adopt some new technologies, new learning, new courses, it has to be positioned and packaged in the right way, so that it is made compellingly good, looking good and attractive. And I think that is one thing which even today's generation really looks at and they really appreciate. And I think that is our responsibility as leaders to really package what we really want to offer to the employees. And now coming to from the top management and the board point of view, I think they are the kind of the lighthouse which is up there to ensure that we are not losing track in terms of where our overall North Star is, and that is, I think, has also helped us to make sure that we stay focused, we get the right set of information guidance from the industry as well as the industry experts, and that's the role of the board members as well to make sure that they provide us with the right guidance and information and the right connects to make sure that we are not going off track. We are also kind of aligned with the overall organization's vision. So I think that is the kind of mix that I see that everyone is playing in the organization.
All right. So you feel it's an extremely collaborative effort.
Absolutely,
right here.
absolutely.
Can I add to
Sure.
that? Okay. So, see, in today's context, given the changes and the disruptions that we see across the market, okay, learning cannot be a parallel function. It has to be within the rhythm of the business. Okay, so wherein you need that engagement, involvement, and blessings, so to say, of every stakeholder, whether it is the leadership team, like Manoj mentioned, whether it is those managers, okay, which are the bridge between an organization's leadership and the actual employee, okay, or at the level of the employee itself. So unless there is a sync and there is that rhythm where learning is happening as part of the day-to-day deliverable, okay, you will not be able to drive that culture of learning, and you will not be able to drive that readiness to build that future resilience and growth mindset and those skills and capabilities which is going to propel the organization as they move into the future.
That's so very well said.
Yeah, and there is one more point I just wanted to add, and I really like what you just said, Divyesh. There is one thing which I also notice in the current generation is, and as you said, they don't have time to take their, head off their monitors. They're so busy in delivering their projects. I think one best way that would definitely work is to really bring in learning in the way of their life and the way of, workflow. And I think that will actually, if it's an integrated environment that is provided, and with AI, it is absolutely doable.
Yeah.
That, if I'm working on an artifact or a deliverable, and if I get the right guidance and mentorship while I'm working on an artifact, I don't need to go to a classroom training unless there is a deep learning required. So I think I totally agree that it has to be part of the way of your work.
Exactly. And that is where we are focused on, going back to your point, because what we are doing as a solution provider in this space is that making it easier for the learners to consume learning. So whether it is a browser or it's my Microsoft Teams or whatever, okay, learning is available there in the same window. Okay, while I'm doing some work, I just click on a button. I have the learning resources which can help me take that piece of content which is going to be relevant to solve that problem that I'm trying to solve. Okay, rather than making somebody move out of that window, go somewhere else, find a learning resource and come back, which never happens.
So there's real-time learning there
Real-time
and
learning.
performance support as well.
In the context of work.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So before I come into that, and we do want to elaborate on micro-learning, real-time learning, and how easily it is available for employees now, I'll quickly take in a word from you, Dr. Badari, on how do you believe that learning can be shaped by the change mindset in an organization? What are the contributions or the roles of stakeholders such as employee, the leaders, and the boardroom when it comes to learning?
Yeah, let's start with the leaders, right? Everything starts at the top. Recently, our CEO Romal Shetty and our COO Nitin Kenny, they were addressing a partner meet, and the message was very clear. Each of our partners in a partnership organization are like part owners, right? The business owners. They have an answerability to ensure that their people spend that time on learning. We had a very traditional, I'm at Deloitte now for 14 years. We had a very traditional approach of everybody having to spend 40 hours of their time on learning. Gone. Now it is anytime, anywhere learning. People learn on their tablets. They're sitting in a train, they're doing a training program, right? And the second thing is, as far as the boardroom is concerned, They keep us on track. They ask us the right questions, right? And we are ensuring that we dedicate at least 1.5% of our revenues on learning.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a sort of commitment. So as recently as around a week back, I was exchanging information with Manoj. 13,000 of the 38,000 people that we have are AI skilled now, as of last week. So this session and this talk could not have come at a more relevant time.
Now that you brought in AI, we should definitely delve into that as
Yeah.
well. How are you weaving in AI into the learning mechanism and AI as part of the courses or the micro learning
Yeah.
credentials that you offer?
So a couple of things that we're doing is we are not following the traditional approach of doing a training need assessment anymore. Our training need assessment right now is directed towards what are the clients asking us for, and we are drilling it down to skill. It's no more about education anymore. Okay, you might be the best MBA from the best MBA school, but are you bringing relevance to the skill? Therefore, if we had to weave it into the learner's mindset, how likable is your content by a consumer? That decides whether the guy wants to go back and learn that or not, right? So if you keep your content extremely likable, if you give that flexibility to people and weave it into their, in fact, our corporate strategy has e-learning and AI learning in its agenda, right?
Excellent.
If it is driven from there, the
Absolutely.
learner down will immediately absorb the importance of this, and our leaders constantly communicate the need for this, and we are weaving all of this into the skills that they need to develop on the job. So making the content likable is extremely important, and the boardroom sponsorship is important, and the leadership backing it and telling their leaders, saying that, look, I will hold you responsible for this. Ensure that your people learn is also extremely important.
Yes, absolutely. For the employee to be proactive about embracing AI and for the manager to be empathetic and motivational about it, there has to be a buy-in from the boardroom and it's to be driven from there for sure. Would you agree with that, Manoj?
No, absolutely. And I think I said that earlier in terms of the sponsorship guidance that we always seek from the board. Talking about the AI, I think the way we are also looking at it, and we have, pretty much built that whole literacy across the organization when it comes to the basics of AI. We are also actually weaving that and curating specific content for various functions, including sales, marketing, planning, finance, etc., because it's actually getting in every function now, and it has so much of power that all of us can be far more efficient and effective if we learn this technology right away. Within L&D, we have immensely leveraged the AI tools and platforms to not only just create content, but also to create assessments. And it's so powerful that it actually helps you in cutting down the overall effort that you would spend in actually creating the whole set of question banks and assessments, which takes weeks. You can actually do it in few days. So it is absolutely phenomenal, the way I think it comes so handy, and I think it will definitely make all of us smarter.
Absolutely. And AI also enables personalized learning paths,
Absolutely.
which is already here. It's ubiquitous now and also the way forward. Would you agree, Divyesh?
Absolutely. No, so, AI is going to be omnipresent across every area. Okay, and that's the fact. Okay, obviously we are going through that transformation across different pockets right now. But then if I specifically talk about learning and what we are discussing right now, it is on one side, like Badri and Manoj mentioned, talking about AI literacy, okay, across the organization at different levels, depending on the role of the person. Okay, and second is in terms of using AI as an advantage to speed to market, going back to Manoj's point, in terms of building content, assessments, so on and so forth, and also personalization to your point. Okay, also in terms of bringing in new approaches to learning altogether, which is what we have been doing at Skillsoft. So we do all of what I just discussed. And at the same time, what has been one of the highlights for me personally and for a lot of our customers in terms of how we can leverage AI today to bring in that element of, real scenario-based role play, okay, to build those capabilities. Because typically what used to happen in the earlier, avatars of e-learning or traditional training is that, you went through a theory element, and a practical element was seldom available, and if available, was very independent and not completely linked with the theory element which is there of learning. Now over here, we are weaving all of that together and creating a simulation for the learner. Whether it is in the technology area or behavioral area or in leadership area, a learner deep dives into that scenario, goes through that experience, okay, and learns or builds that capability which drives the behavior change at the end of the day. Okay, because just by going through a video, you don't generally become an expert on anything, right? You have to practice and hone your skills, and that's where AI is going to be extremely critical. Okay, leveraging AI is going to make things possible which were never possible in the past, and that's.
So, you're absolutely right. From being just a cursory checkbox, these courses, as recent as maybe 2 to 3 years ago, I feel there was just a course and then there was a test at the end of it, and that's it. And that's completely transformed now, right? There's micro-learning, there's continuous learning, there is performance support. But Divyesh, what is the split that you are seeing currently when it comes to traditional courses? Are they still relevant in any area? And how much importance are the rest of the learning systems being given by organizations?
Yeah, so there is definitely space for traditional learning. I wouldn't deny that. Okay, whether it is in terms of fundamentals, whether it is in terms of deep skilling, you have to go through that rigor of following a curriculum. Okay. Because without that, you may not necessarily get to an expert level, proficiency in a particular area. But at the same time, what happens is, once done doesn't mean you are able to replicate it on the job and be productive in terms of driving those outcomes. That's where you need those bite-sized learning elements so that you can revisit, you can drive that level of reinforcement and behavior change. And that's where it has to be blend of both. Okay, so there are elements which are in terms of e-learning curriculums. There are elements in terms of those simulations, assessments, and all of that. There are those videos which are bite-sized. There are those job aids and all of that. There is a place for everything, but the differentiating factor is in terms of how do you design those so that they can be used as per the need of the learner, in the context of the learner, and at a time and place where they need it. Okay, so for example, if I want to, let's say, I'll just take a very simple example of, say, Excel. If I want to become a master in Excel, okay, macros or something like that, I'll need that curriculum. But let's say if I want to just create a pivot table and share a report with my manager, okay, I don't want to go through a 3-hour or for a 10-hour course or a certification, right? I just need that basic, insight, whether it is in 2-minute video or, a job aid, which helps me get the pivot table done and move forward. That's where micro and deep learning, you have scenarios for both.
That's a great example of Excel because it's very relatable to all of us. We're permanent and constant learners of Excel.
Exactly.
Because it's always evolving, right? Just like the market today, always evolving, disruptions more than ever before. So are you also viewing this traditional learning such as courses to really understand, do a deep dive, and then perhaps, add-ons like shorter simulations so that there's continuous testing and application of those skills?
Yeah. So there are two things that AI cannot do for us. Let's be very clear that wherever there's empathy and emotional intelligence required, AI cannot do that for us. The second thing is, wherever there's creative problem solving, AI cannot do it for us. So traditional learning still has its space, right? The whole thing is about customizing what is easily teachable to these to the workforce in bite-sized learning that is there. But things like empathy, emotional resilience, emotional intelligence, it cannot be For example, I don't think anybody of us sitting here can gather emotional intelligence and what's needed on how to deal with people, self-awareness through a course, right? So traditional learning has its place, and let's not forget that we are all built with social intelligence, gestures, feelings.
Yes, absolutely.
When you see people live, it's a completely different feeling. I still am an advocate of traditional learning where sometimes class learning is required. So as far as Deloitte is concerned, I think there is a place for traditional learning. We do have these programs. We do have a Deloitte University where people go and physically learn. But I think even within that physical learning is also, there's a lot of this technology that's coming in.
Correct.
For example, let's talk about our induction programs today, okay? We have 38,000 people with 13 locations, and people in Mauritius, Maldives. We have employees all. So for us to assemble everybody at a place and do a formal induction is becoming very, very difficult and obsolete. And business today wants to have people hit the ground running. How do you do this? So we've come up with this metaverse. So you sit in front of your laptop, you are entering our office, and we'll show you the whole office and all our businesses, and you can even converse and listen to our business leaders. That's the power of this learning that you can bring into this. So has a traditional learning gone? No, it has its place. But I think these sort of innovations are very, very required, and we are driving them very aggressively, and happy to say that today you don't have to go to a physical location to do an induction. You can sit at your laptop, do your induction. We condense the whole program of 1.5 days into like 3 hours. That's it. And people are liking it. They can go click their interactive characters. You collect gold coins on the way as you go through each course. And then there's a quiz at the end. Can't get better.
Well, technology has made it more interactive
Yeah.
than ever. And I
Yeah.
think engagement is definitely on a high because of this enablement. And also, I'll come to you, Manoj, taking across what he was saying, the fact that AI can only, take you so far. When it comes to empathy, when it comes to perhaps even leadership skills, you need some peer-to-peer learning, mentorship. How do you see this? And he was also talking about how AI is actually being woven into these physical systems and modules.
Yeah, so I think with AI being around, and there is more and more dependency on machines, the human element, it can't be just taken away. And that is what I think all of us are alluding to, that there are things which just cannot be replaced by machines. So when it comes to, even if you look at the whole agentic AI, which is the new buzzword now, and more you know about it, more you realize that you need a very different set of skills now in order to even implement, first of all, understand what's agentic AI, and also how to even implement it. So the implementation of many of these technologies is rather easier, but finding the right opportunities is the most difficult part. And that is where I think the higher order competencies and skills are required, where not just the architects and engineers, but even the business leaders and sales need to be able to see what maybe others can't see, and that's where those opportunities are. So I think the kind of skills that we are really looking at now, gradually, will be more and more important around systems engineering, right? Systems thinking, design thinking. And that is where I think people will have to really start looking at systems holistically, and that is where you will be able to kind of empathize with the end users, and many other things will happen. So I think these are some of the faculties which I see will be becoming very, very prominent going forward.
So implement design thinking and don't retrofit skills.
Yeah, and I think there is a fantastic concept of systems thinking, which now many of the educational institutions are slowly implementing into their curriculum, which is actually not understood by many. And this was something that was introduced, back in the Deming days, when it was in early 60s and 70s, where, unless you have the system view, you will probably not be able to, apprehend the whole system in terms of the overall architecture, design, and do the right justice to what the customers are really looking for. Going to the other, I think, topic of talking about the blended learning, classroom learning, and so on. In my view, I think wherever you need quicker results in terms of if there is a new skill to be acquired, and if there is a business imperative, there is an urgency to have so many skills deployed on specific account or projects. I don't think the classroom trainings can be replaced by self-learning, because if you look at the efficiency and the outcome with respect to self-learning vis-a-vis the classroom learning or the instructor-led trainings, there is no comparison. And the effectiveness when it comes to really deep learning, if you're just brushing up, if it's a refresher, fine, self-learning is good, e-learning is good. But I think if you're learning something completely brand new, ground up, you definitely need someone right in front of you as a trainer, either virtually or physically, in my view. And secondly, I think bringing in, gamification, as you said, Badri, and also, making even coding as a sport for that matter, right? And making, those activities around hackathons will probably make things much more exciting for employees to learn. Rather than putting them in the classroom, just, give them the problems and let them solve. So I think these are some of the things that I see would probably help us in the future.
So I see all the leaders are in consensus when you talk about the fact that learning has to be a blend of all these methods of traditional, of micro-learning, continuous learning, real-time learning, and that's what produces the best results. So all our leaders here are in agreement when it comes to the fact that learning has to be a blend of different methods. There is a place for traditional courses, but it has to be supplemented by AI, by technology. It should be gamified perhaps to increase engagement. Now, as we bring this discussion to a close, I would like to ask you a future thinking question. We were talking about how the skills of today are quickly going to be obsolete, but surely there will be some skills that will be necessary while we're going into the future. According to you, what is that one skill that's going to be essential in the future, you think, or will perhaps gain even more importance than ever? I'll come to you first, Manoj.
Sure. So in my view, it will be problem solving, because I think in order to, for us to really step up and add that value for our clients and to our customers, I think first and foremost is to be able to even understand the problem, which is also, in other words, an opportunity for us to really kind of grab. And in order to, being able to rather solve that problem with a very systematic methodologies like, as I said, the design thinking. So I think problem solving becomes one of the most critical skills, if you ask me.
Okay, so problem solving is going to be more important than ever as we go into the future.
Absolutely.
That's very true indeed. Dr. Badri, what would you say?
Yeah. So I was reading a Harvard article. Okay. So the question that is most popularly asked is, will AI replace humans? Okay. It was very interesting the way the author articulated the answer. He says, look, yes, AI will replace humans only in two conditions. If the human knows AI, he'll replace a human who does not know AI. That's the only replacement that will happen, right? So I think I'll answer your question in two parts. The first thing is, I think people need to know what to ask the machine. If there is a program given, if there's a generative AI program, how efficient are your prompts? That's a very narrow answer, of course, that's pointed towards a skill. I think for leaders, what's very essential is, how do you communicate the importance of value of this so that you have humans who know AI who are replacing humans who do not know AI? Yeah.
Very well said. That's definitely how it's going to be. The truth of today as well. Those who know AI will replace those who don't. And you need to know the right questions to ask and where to apply it.
Correct.
Divyesh, I'll let you have the last word on this panel discussion.
Yeah, so I think based on what I've heard and our last discussion over the last few minutes, I would say learning how to learn would be the skill that is important. Because if you look at it, today it is AI, tomorrow it could be something else, right? And within AI, there'll be so many other things which will be there. So learning how to learn, having that learning agility and ability is going to be the paramount skill in my mind.
And if I had to learn how to learn, you are the exact leaders I would come to.
Thank
You
you.
have solution providers,
Sure.
you have people who work in such huge organizations, leading such a varied workforce. And it's been fantastic listening to your wealth of experience and listening to your answers to the questions that are shaping the HR landscape. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an extremely productive and also very enjoyable discussion. Thank you for your valuable time.
Likewise.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
Thank you
us.
so much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for watching. As you've learned today, it's not just about a one-time learning, but it's about continuous skilling. The fact that it has to be woven into the rhythm of your daily work in life, as beautifully articulated by Divyesh. That's what is going to be the need of the hour as we step into the future to make sure that our workforce is future ready. And for more such insightful conversations, remember to stay tuned to ET Studios.